Number 31, which molecule would likely contain sulfur? Is it letter A, nucleic acids, letter B, lipids, letter C, proteins, or letter D, glucose? Okay, which one is the correct choice? Okay, letter C, letter C. Karamihang choice nyo is letter C. Which molecule would likely contain sulfur? Correct choice is letter C, proteins. Okay, so letter C po, proteins. Ang ating correct choice dito, if you are looking at your different biomolecules, no, your lipids, carbohydrates, nucleic acids, and proteins, all of them would have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Okay, kaya tinatawag silang organic molecules. Meron silang carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Now, your nucleic acids would have nitrogen and phosphorus. Okay, your nucleic acid would have nitrogen and phosphorus. On the other hand, your proteins would have nitrogen and sulfur and selenium. Okay, so selenium and sulfur. So ito po yung ating biomolecules. These are the 4 macromolecules that support life. Okay, so lipids, you have carbohydrates. Parehas lamang yung composition ng lipids mo and carbohydrates. More concentrated lang itong yung ratio ng inyong hydrogen and oxygen between hydrogen and oxygen mo na ratio in your lipids would be higher than the ratio that you have for carbohydrates. A carbohydrate, it is fixed. It's 2:1. For every atom of oxygen, there should always be 2 atoms of hydrogen. Okay, so 2:1 yung kanilang ratio dito. Sa lipids mo, it is not fixed. Okay, so hindi fixed at it should be higher than 2:1. Your nucleic acids also would have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, but along with that, it also would have nitrogen and phosphorus. Okay, and your proteins would have nitrogen, no phosphorus. It would also have sulfur, and sometimes it would also have selenium. Okay, so ito po yung inyong 4 biomolecules. We were looking for the biomolecules that, or the biomolecule that contains sulfur, and so protein is our answer, protein. Next, 32. Which domain contains both the plant and animal kingdoms? Letter A, bacteria. Letter B, protista. Letter C, archaea. Or letter D, eukarya. Okay, what's the choice for 32? Number 32. Ano kaya yung tamang choice for number 32? Okay, number 32, I see D's. Okay, karamihan choice nyo is letter D, and that is correct. Okay, so that's eukarya, eukarya. All right, so again, which domain contains both the plant and animal kingdoms? Correct choice here would be eukarya. Let's take a look at your slide. So these are the 6 different domains, no? Ito yung domains of life. Now, out of your domains of life, yung inyong archaea or archaebacteria, archaea and your bacteria are both prokaryotes. Okay, so prokaryotes po itong dalawang ito. That means, remember the difference between your prokaryotic cell and your eukaryotic cell. Pag prokaryotes, walang nucleus and walang organelles. Pag eukaryotes, may nucleus at may organelles. Okay, so archaea and bacteria are both groups of organisms without nucleus and without membrane-bound organelles. Okay, so prokaryotes sila. Your eukaryotes or eukarya, it would include protista, fungi, plants, and animals. Okay, so yung question natin, which among these domains would include plants and animals, your answer would be eukarya. Okay, your eukaryotic cell, those cells with organelles and those cells with nucleus. Okay, so eukarya is the correct choice. Next one, 33. Which of the following statements about taxonomic levels is correct? Family is more specific than order. Kingdom is the most specific. Letter C, species is the most general. Or letter D, class is less specific than phylum. If you can remember your different taxonomic levels, we are going to, of course, talk about it. Which one is your choice for number 33? Number 33. Okay, I see A's, may D. Ano kaya yung tama sa dalawa? A and D. Now, we have to, of course, first look at the meaning of the term specific. Okay? Ano nga ba yung term na, yung meaning ng term na specific? Of course, when you are saying specific, that means it's very exclusive, no? It's specific. Meaning, ito lamang yung members niya. Ito lamang yung members niya. And so the correct choice that we have here would be letter A. Tama yung letter A. Family is more specific than order. Okay, if you are looking at your different taxonomic levels, remember you have King Philip came over for greater success. Okay, King Philip came over for greater success. Okay, so kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Your letter A tells you family is more specific than the order. Okay, so family is more specific than an order. So tama yung inyong letter A. Let's take a look at nga. Balikan natin yung iba. Kingdom is the most specific. Hindi po. Kingdom yung largest of all classifications. No? So widest yung hawak, yung saklaw ng inyong kingdom. Species is the most general. Hindi. Species is the most specific. Okay, so magkabaliktad itong B and C. Class is less specific than phylum. King Philip, okay, came. So class should be more specific dahil nasa sa ilalim pa ng phylum yung inyong class. Okay, so King Philip came over for greater success. So again, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus. Okay, so tandaan po yan. Dapat pare-parehas or dapat ma-memorize nyo itong inyong acronym or inyong mnemonic. Okay, so King, phylum, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. King Philip came over for greater success. At yan yung ating mnemonic. Next one, which level of organization in taxonomy is the most specific? Okay, ito, low road transfer na, kakasabi ko lamang, no? Kakabanggit ko lamang kung saan yung most specific. Dapat tama ang inyong choice. Okay, dapat tama ang inyong sagot for this item. Okay, what's your choice for the item that we have? Question number 34. Okay, I see a lot of letter A's, and that is correct. Okay, so species is the most specific. Again, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Okay, so species natin yung pinaka-specific. Now, sometimes the LET would ask you, would use different terms for this. No? Sometimes the LET would say inclusive and exclusive. No? So when you are saying exclusive, siya yung most specific. So if the question is, which level of organization in taxonomy is the most exclusive, that means sila lamang, no, exclusive. Exclusibo lamang sa kanila. That means it is specific. Your answer would be species. If the question is, which level of taxonomy or level of organization in taxonomy is the most inclusive, if it is the most inclusive, that means it includes a lot of different species, your answer would be kingdom. Okay, so kingdom po yung inyong isasagot doon. Pero pag most exclusive, that would be your species. All right, next one. Palm trees have parallel veins, long leaves, vascular tissue, and flowers with groups of 3 petals. Based on this information, palm trees can best be classified as letter A, non-vascular, letter B, monocot, letter C, gymnosperm, or letter D, dicot. Okay, what is your answer for 35? Sir Ian Clarin, bakit po holiday? Labor Day po din lang ngayon. Today is their Labor Day dito. Okay, what is your choice for 35? All right, 35. I see a lot of letter B's. May iilang letter C. Okay, going back to number 35, palm trees have parallel veins. Meron siyang parallel veins, long leaves, vascular tissue, flowers with groups of 3 petals, and it is classified as a monocot. Okay, so monocot po ang ating choice dito. Letter B po ang ating palm trees. Let's take a look at the different classifications of your plants. Okay, so your plants are classified as to whether unang-una, no, kung meron silang vascular tissue or wala. Okay, whether they have vascular tissue or wala. So kung meron silang vascular tissue, you'd call these types of plants as your vascular plants. Okay, vascular plants. Now, yung tinatawag mong vascular tissue would be the xylem and the phloem. Lumalabas din po ito sa inyong let, no, na item. Yung xylem would be that vascular tissue that would be transporting water and nutrients. Okay, so water and nutrients mo, that would be your xylem. Xylem yung water and nutrients, while phloem would be for food. Okay, so food, that would be for the that would be transported by your phloem. Okay, so again, these are the 2 vascular tissue in your plants. Okay, so kung vascular yung plants mo, that means it has xylem and it has phloem. Again, yung difference ng xylem and phloem mo would be xylem transports water and nutrients while phloem would transport food. Okay, so that's your vascular plants. Pag wala namang vascular plants, that means tinatawag siyang non-vascular plants. Okay, so pag wala siyang vascular tissue, I mean non-vascular plant siya. Okay, so vascular or non-vascular, these are the 2 main categories of your plants, no? So vascular, again, pag may xylem and phloem, non-vascular mo would be without those 2 tissues. Now, your vascular plants, ito yung mga plants mo na that can grow taller. Okay, so taller itong vascular plants mo because of course they have their transport system. Merong xylem, merong phloem. Again, yung xylem would transport water and nutrients. Your phloem would transport your food. Okay? Now, out of your vascular plants, meron kang 2 categories, no? Gymnosperms and angiosperms. Yung difference is that your angiosperms would have flowers while your gymnosperms do not have flowers. Instead of flowers, they have cones. Okay, meron silang cones. So gymnosperms would have cones and angiosperms would have flowers. Okay, so these are your gymnosperms. First, plants with seeds. Their seeds are contained in their cones. No? So yung pine trees mo, yung conifers mo, your ginkgos, these are examples of your gymnosperms. So again, gymnosperms, vascular siya, it has xylem and phloem, pero wala siyang bulaklak. Okay? Wala siyang flower. Now, on the other hand, your angiosperms are plants with flowers. Okay? Plants with flowers, those are your angiosperms. And you have two types for this. Meron ka monocot and dicot. Okay, so monocot and dicot. Cot here, of course, would stand for cotyledon, no? Cotyledon or seed leaf. Ito yung unang-unang leaf na inside makikita mo sa seed ng inyong growing plant. So monocot and dicot. Mono, of course, means one. So when you say monocot, it only has one cotyledon, while dicot, di means two. So this type of angiosperm would have two cotyledons, okay? Now, along with that, as their difference, meron pa silang ibang differences. So again, ang unang difference would be monocot would only have one cotyledon, only one seed leaf. Aside from that, meron siyang flowers in multiples of 3. In multiples of 3 yung kanyang flowers. So 3, 6, 9, 12, etc. So in this example, for example here, no, meron siyang 6 na petals. Okay? So 6 na petals yung kanyang bulaklaks. And so we say that it has a flower with multiples of 3. So because 6, of course, is a multiple of 3. Okay? So meron siyang flowers in multiples of 3. And another thing is that the leaves would have parallel venation. Pag sinabi niyong parallel venation, yung sa leaves niya, pag tinignan niyo yung parang mga linya sa leaves ay straight line lamang yung makikita mo sa inyong monocot. So makikita mo to sa rice. Yung rice mo is a monocot. Yung pineapple is a monocot, no? Kasi yung kanyang parallel, yung venation niya ay parallel lamang. Your coconut mo is a monocot. Palm trees are monocots. Your sugar cane are monocots, no? Yung inyong grasses mo are also monocots. Okay, so parallel venation, one cotyledon, flowers in multiples of 3. Okay, now for your dicots naman, they have flowers in multiples of 5 or 6. Their venation is netted, no? Netted yung venation niya. So it's not just lines, pero mas complicated yung veins sa kanyang leaves. And of course, it would have 2 cotyledons. Okay? So 2 cotyledons. Yun, tama yun. Corn is a monocot, no? So corn yung monocot din siya. Bamboo is a monocot. So you can easily tell which one is a monocot, which one is a dicot just by looking at the leaf venation, no? So pag linya-linya yung linya-linya lamang yung kanyang veins, and usually long ang leaves, those would be monocots. Okay? Yung dicots mo naman, usually yung fruit trees mo would be dicots. Okay? So, complicated yung nets, complicated yung lines sa kanyang leaves. Alright, we move on. 36. Plants that have cones rather than flowers for seed production are best known as, we've just talked about this a while ago, monocots, gymnosperms, angiosperms, vascular. Okay, which one is the correct choice for 36? 36 po, ano ang tamang choice? Number 36, what is the correct choice? Okay, letter B. Karamihang choice nyo is letter B. And of course, letter B dito ang ating choice. Okay, so gymnosperms pong hinahanap natin. Those without flowers but have cones. Okay, plants that have cones rather than flowers are called gymnosperms. Now remember, meron kang vascular plants. Ang vascular plants mo are those with xylem and phloem. Meron ka ding non-vascular without xylem and phloem. Yung non-vascular plants mo, these are your mosses. Yung mga moss nyo, yung mga lumot-lumot, no? Yung mga lumot. Yung mga nagko-crawl lamang sa ground. Kaya sila hindi lumalaki, kaya nagko-crawl lamang sila sa ground dahil wala silang transport system. Okay, wala silang xylem and phloem. That's your non-vascular plants. Kaya very limited yung transport ng plants, and so they have to be very close to the ground para ma-absorb pa rin nila yung nutrients, yung water, so that's your non-vascular plants. Yung vascular plants mo, they have xylem and phloem. Again, xylem is for the transport of water and nutrients. Phloem is for the transport of food. Under vascular plants, you have gymnosperms and angiosperms. Gymnosperms would not have flowers. Aside from flowers, or instead of flowers, they will have cones. No? So meron silang cones. Both of them would have seeds. Parehas silang may seeds. Now, angiosperms, on the other hand, they would have flowers. May flowers itong inyong angiosperms. Under angiosperms, you have monocot and dicot. Okay, we already know the difference between monocots and dicots. Monocots only have one cotyledon, flowers in multiples of 3, and parallel venation in the leaves. Dicotyledon mo naman yung dicots mo, they will have 2 cotyledons. Their flowers should be in multiples of 5 and 6. Or 4 and 5, and of course their venation would be netted, okay, netted venation. So here, letter B po ang ating choice. 36 is letter B. 37, why are mosses, hornworts, and liverworts small? They lack vascular tissue to move food and water throughout the plant. They lack phloem to move food throughout the plant, but have xylem to move water. They lack xylem to move water throughout the plant, but have phloem to move food. Letter D, none of these answers are correct. Okay, what's your choice for 37? Number 37. Ano po ang inyong choice for number 37? Okay, 37A. Karamihang sagot ay letter A. Kakabanggit ko lamang nito, no? Kakabanggit ko lamang na bakit yung mosses mo, yung hornworts, your liverworts are small, okay? As I've mentioned, it's letter A. Wala silang vascular tissue to move food and water throughout the plant, and so they need to be really close to the ground para ma-absorb pa rin nila yung food, water, your nutrients, okay? So letter A po yung ating choice. These are non-vascular plants. Non-vascular sila. Wala silang vascular tissue, and that's the reason why they should be really close to the ground. So letter A is correct for number 37. 38. Which of the following are types of self-pollination? Okay, which of the following are types of self-pollination? Letter A, the pollen moves to the ground and is planted. Letter B, the pollen moves to the female parts of a flower of another species. Letter C, the pollen moves to the male parts of the same flower. Or letter D, the pollen moves to the female parts of the same flower. What's your choice for 38? 38, ano po yung ating choice? What's your choice for number 38? Okay, I see a lot of letter D's for number 38, letter D. And tama po yung letter D, okay? So the pollen moves to the female parts of the flower. Remember, pollen would be like the sperm cell, no? Para siyang sperm cell ng inyong plants. And so, pag pumunta siya sa female parts ng the same flower, it should be the same flower because we are looking for self-pollination. Remember, pollination is how your pollen grains are moved, no? Or how your pollen grains are moved. It can be between two flowers. It can be by just using one flower. Okay, so when you say self-pollination, isang bulaklak lamang yung involved. But when you say cross-pollination, pag cross-pollination, there would be two different plants or two different flowers that are involved. Okay, so letter D po yung ating choice dito. The pollen moves to the female parts of the same flower. It should be to the female parts of the same flower, hindi po male parts, dahil yung pollen mo is already part of your male reproductive parts of your flower, no? Kasi yung pollen mo would be like the sperm cell. Okay, so letter D is the correct choice. Okay, letter D po ang tama. We go to the next one. 39. The female parts of a flower include which of the following? Stigma, style, and filament. Stigma, style, and stamen. Letter C, stigma, style, and ovary. Letter D, stigma, anther, and stamen. Which one is a correct choice? Ma'am Clarimar, wala ka pong kasama? Saan kaya si Ma'am Clarimar? Sa Team Erickson yata si Ma'am Clarimar. Para mag-isa lang daw siya. Hindi yata nila naalala na meron tayong live ngayon. Okay, 39. Number 39 na po tayo. Anong inyong choice? Okay, letter C. I see a lot of letter C's. And letter C is correct here. Okay, so stigma, style, and ovary, those are the female parts of a flower. Let's take a look at your flower. Okay, so yung flower mo would have the stamen. Ang stamen po yung male part of the flower. Okay, so yung hint nyo dito would be the term men. Stamen, male part of the flower. Okay, so again, stamen, male part of the flower. Now, yung male part of the flower mo, yung stamen would only have two parts, the anther and the filament. Yung anther mo, yung nagpo-produce ng pollen. Okay, so anther produces the pollen. Yung filament is just the stalk that holds the anther. Bakit siya dapat may stalk? Bakit siya dapat may filament? It is so that your pollinators would be able to touch it, would be able to see it. Okay, so pollinators mo, your agents of pollination, for example, the bees, the butterflies, the birds. Okay, so makikita nila kasi nakaangat itong inyong anther, no? Kasi nakaangat siya, inangat siya ng filament. So again, your stamen, the male part of the flower, would only have two parts, the anther, which produces the pollen grains, and the filament, which holds the anther, no? Which supports the anther. Now, for the female part is called, it can be called pistil. Tinatawag din siyang carpel. Okay, carpel or pistil. You have the stigma, the style, and the ovary. The stigma is the sticky opening, yung nakikita nyo sa inyong gumamela, ay yung hibiscus, yung pinakamahabang parang muso niya, that will be the stigma. The stigma is sticky. Bakit siya sticky? So that your pollen grains would get stuck to it, okay? Because that is where okay, so it is the stigma, the sticky opening on top of the flower, no? Yan yung inyong stigma. Now, the style is just a long tube that connects your ovary to the stigma. Para lang siyang esophagus, no? Para siyang long tube. And of course, the ovary is like the ovaries in females. So para din siyang ovary sa female, it holds the female gametes, no, the female parts of your flower. In this case, sa flower mo, tinatawag siyang ovule. So ovule, yung tawag sa kumbaga egg cell ng inyong flower. So pollen is like the sperm cell, while the ovule is like the egg cell. Okay, so again, that's the stamen and the pistil or the carpel or pistil. All right, next. 40. Humans often manipulate plants in order to create results that are better fit for their needs. What process is often used to create new hybrids of grapes for making wine? Is it letter A, bulbs, letter B, grafting, letter C, rhizomes, or letter D, stolons? Okay, what's your choice for 40? We're almost done. $40. Ano po ang inyong sagot for number 40? Okay, number 40. I see B's and C's. Alright, so going back to number 40 here, sabi humans often manipulate plants in order to create better results. What process is often used to create new hybrids of grapes for making wine? And the correct choice here is letter B, that's grafting. We all know what grafting is, di ba? Meron kang dalawang species ng grapes at sila ay pinagdudugtong, no? Pinagdudugtong sila to create new hybrids. Yung bulbs mo are just specialized part lang siya ng inyong plants, no? So bulbs, your onion mo, it's called a bulb. So bulb yung onion mo, your rhizomes, specialized part din siya ng inyong plant, no? Example for this would be your luya. Yung luya, ginger, it's an example of your rhizome. Ang stolon mo naman, examples for this would be the ones that you see in your strawberry. So strawberry mo, meron siyang stolon, yung parang bagging, no? Parang bagging, para siyang tendril, para din siyang tendril na nakikita mo sa inyong squash. Okay, so these are just specialized parts of your plants that are involved in vegetative reproduction or in asexual reproduction. So bulbs, that's what you have in your onion. In your onion, no, tinatawag mo siyang bulb. Rhizome, that's what you find in your luya, yung ginger, yung kinakain natin, no? So ginger, yung rhizome yan. Yung stolon mo, those are the tendrils that you find in your strawberry. So grafting po yung method, no? Process lamang na hinahanap natin dito would be grafting. That's grafting. We're looking for a process, not a certain part of your plants. Number 41, what is one difference between the nervous and endocrine systems? Letter A, both the nervous system and endocrine system use chemical signals, but only the nervous system also transports nutrients. Letter B, the nervous system supplies oxygen to the body, and the endocrine system supplies blood. Letter C, the endocrine uses only chemical signals to communicate, and the nervous system uses both electrical and chemical signals. Letter D, the nervous system uses chemical signals to communicate, and the endocrine system uses both electrical and chemical signals. Okay, which one do you think is the correct choice, or 41? 41, ano po yung tamang choice? Number 41. What do you think is the correct choice for number 41? Okay, I see B's. Nasa 40 pa rin yung iba. Grafting pa rin yung sagot ng iba. Okay, I see a lot of letter C's for number 41. And letter C here is the correct choice. Okay, so tama yung letter C for number 41. The endocrine uses only chemical signals to communicate, yung tinatawag nating hormones, no? Yung hormones natin are produced by our endocrine. So endocrine yung nagpo-produce ng ating hormones. And so your endocrine uses only chemical signals to communicate, and the nervous system uses both electrical and chemical signals. So meron siyang electrical signals. Your impulses are considered electrical signals na sa nervous system mo. And meron din siyang chemical signals because of the presence of neurotransmitters. So meron siyang neurotransmitters. Yung endocrine mo naman is only for chemical signals. So chemical signals lamang. Okay, so whenever you say homeostasis, this is the ability to maintain a reasonably stable internal condition regardless of surrounding factors. Your body would always want to go back to having its homeostasis. So babalik ka lagi sa inyong homeostasis. Dapat nasa stable internal condition yung inyong katawan lagi, no? So if you have fever, for example, mataas yung lagnat mo, meron kang 39 degrees Celsius for example na lagnat, kailangan mo mag-take talaga ng medicine so that your body would go back to its stable conditions, bumaba yung inyong temperature back to 37 degrees Celsius, okay? So that your body would maintain homeostasis. If your body is not in homeostasis, you might get very sick. Your systems would shut down, no? So your body organs would shut down, and eventually, of course, it can lead to death. So dapat we maintain our homeostasis. Pag nag-exercise ka, nawala yung maraming pawis, no? Yung lumabas yung maraming pawis, nawala yung maraming water molecules from your body, you feel thirsty because that's the way of your body telling you that you need to replenish the water molecules that you have lost, okay? So that your body would still be at its homeostasis, okay? So we always have to go back to homeostasis. Now, of course, in your nervous system, it uses electrical signals. Ito yung electrical signals niya. Aside from that, meron din siyang chemical signals because of the presence of your neurotransmitters. Meron din siyang neurotransmitters. On the other hand, your endocrine system would only be using chemical signals. Ito yung tinatawag nating hormones. Okay, so hormones naman for endocrine system, only chemical signals. They would all both of these body system would work very closely, no? Yung nervous system mo and endocrine system, especially when there's times of emergency, no? Yung tinatawag mong fight or flight mechanism mo, yung adrenaline rush, your nervous system and the endocrine system would work hand in hand. Okay, so again, the difference would be sa inyong nervous system, both chemical and electrical, endocrine only chemical. Next, 42. What constitutes a food web? Letter A, a sequence of organisms that feed on each other. Letter B, a complex of food chain that consists of omnivores who feed on both herbivores and other omnivores. Letter C, a combination of food chains that are interconnected to create a network of feeding relationships. Or letter D, a sequence of omnivores who feed on each other. What is the correct choice for 42? 42 po, ano ang inyong choice? Okay, number 42, I see a lot of letter C's, and that is correct. Okay, so letter C, a combination of food chains that are interconnected to create a network of feeding relationships. Your B and D are both wrong kasi sabi dito, omnivores lamang, no? Meron din po tayong iba't ibang klase ng organism sa ating food chain and ating food web. Hindi lamang herbivores, hindi lamang omnivores, hindi lamang carnivores, meron ka ding decomposers, no? Meron ka rin detritivores. Remember, your herbivores are those animals that would only eat plants. Your carnivores are those animals that would only eat meat. And your omnivores would eat both. Okay, so but ang serious ngayon, walang joke. Okay? Kasi yung omnivores mo, humans like us would be omnivores. Seryoso ba tayo? Kasi walang nagjo-joke ngayon, no? Parang nagmamadaling matapos na tong science. Ayaw niyo yata ng science. Now, letter A mo, this is just a sequence of organisms. Letter A is food chain. Food chain lamang ito. Now, if you have food chains that are combined, then you'd use the term food web. Okay? Food web yung hinahanap natin. So, it's letter C. Okay, so letter C po ang ating choice. We move on. We're almost done. Nagmamadali yata, Sir Aladino. Pagod sila sa science. In a typical ecosystem, what percentage of the energy produced by the autotrophs then consumed by the primary consumers will be passed along to the secondary consumers? Is it letter A, 0.7%, letter B, 1%, letter C, 7%, or letter D, 10%? Mga pressured na sa exam. Pa-comatose na yung brain cells. Kaya daw hindi sila makapag-concentrate, sir. Okay, what is your choice for 43? Number 43. Oh, 20 days na lang. Tama nga, no? Seryoso na sila. Okay, number 43. Letter D. Maraming nagsagot ng letter D. Medyo na-confuse or medyo umasa yung mga sumagot ng letter D. Wala na daw kasama si Ma'am Clarimar sa Team Erickson yata. Iniwan ka na nila, ma'am. Okay, yung letter D natin, medyo umasa kayo sa letter D, no? Kasi palagi natin binabanggit ito. In your food pyramid, no, in your energy pyramid, the next trophic level, the next level of organisms would only get 10% from the previous, no? The previous. Kaya lang dito sa inyong question, tatlong levels yung binanggit, no? Remember your autotrophs, these are your producers, these are your plants, okay? These are organisms that can make their own food. So, ito yung mga plants natin. They are autotrophs. They can photosynthesize, no? Meron silang capacity to do photosynthesis. So, your autotrophs are consumed by your primary consumers. Your primary consumers, of course, these are your herbivores because they are the ones who are consuming your plants, no? Who are consuming your autotrophs. So, primary consumers mo would be herbivores. Now, yung question is, what percentage will be passed along to the secondary consumers? So that means tatlong levels yung kanyang dinaanan, no? So tatlong levels. So from autotrophs, from plants, kinain ng primary consumers mo, which are your herbivores, at pinasa sa secondary consumers mo, can still be your secondary consumers, I mean, would be pwede silang carnivores or omnivores. Okay, so tatlong levels po yung binanggit dito. Kaya hindi po letter D yung ating choice, it will be letter B. Letter B po. Hindi siya 10%, 1% na lang siya. Okay, yes, tama po yan, Ma'am Shali Baluyot. 1% na lamang siya dahil tatlong levels yung kanyang dinaanan. Kung yung question ay anong percentage ng energy yung nakuha ng primary consumer from the autotrophs, po pwedeng 10% siya. Pero ngayon, tatlong levels yung dinaanan niya. Okay, so that would be 1% na lamang, 1%. Okay, so say your producers, these are your autotrophs. Yung producers mo, it is believed that your producers would only consume 1% coming from the sun, no, energy coming from the sun. Now, per level, 10% po yung nakukuha. So from producer to your primary consumer, your herbivores, 10% of the energy lamang yung nakukuha. Pagpunta sa secondary consumer, from your primary consumer, 10%, then 10%, and so on. Now, yung question mo is from producer until the secondary consumer, so 1% na lamang po yung naiwan. Okay? We go to number 44. What can an herbivore be categorized as? Is it letter A, detritivore, letter B, autotroph, letter C, a producer, or letter D, a primary consumer? Ma'am Meg, sino kaya ito? Facebook user lang kasi yung lumalabas, ma'am or sir. Ma'am Meg, saan pala kayo banda sa South Carolina? Kasi ang tagal ko sa South, di ko man nahanap yung lake kung saan nag-shoot ang The Notebook. Malapit po siya sa Charleston, ma'am or sir. Hindi ko po nakikita yung name ninyo. Facebook user lang po lumalabas dito sa StreamYard. Malapit po siya sa Charleston. Maraming scenes sa The Notebook yung sinut sa Charleston. Yung pinunta naming lake is in Goose Creek. It's just a few minutes away from Charleston, mga 27 minutes from Charleston. Ayun, Ma'am Vanessa Acasio. Si Ma'am Vanessa Acacio pala. Hindi ko nakikita dito sa StreamYard. Okay, so Ma'am Van, nasa ano po, malapit po siya sa Charleston. Pero kami po ay nasa Sumter. Pero yung school ko po ay sa Manning. Okay. All right, number 44. What can an herbivore be categorized as? Paano nakakategorize yung isang herbivore? Remember, your herbivores are those organisms that eat plants alone. Okay, so eat plants alone. Okay, and so the correct choice here, tama yung letter D, it is a primary consumer. Dad. Singgit bata mo. Okay, so letter D, a primary consumer is the correct choice. Okay, so again, primary consumer siya kasi siya yung unang-unang kakain sa plants. Okay, so remember your autotroph and your producers are the same. Yung autotrophs mo, these are organisms that can make their own food. Producers also are organisms that create food or make food. And so yung autotrophs and producers natin parehas lamang po sila, no? These are your plants. So yung herbivore mo, these are organisms that would only eat plants. And so primary consumers sila. Sila yung unang-unang level ng consumer. So primary consumer. Your detritivore are those organisms that would absorb nutrients usually from dead plants and animals. No? So bacteria, your fungi or fungi, they are considered detritivores. Okay, so here letter D po ang ating choice. 40, oh no, going back no. So ganito pa rin, pinakita ko na to kanina sa inyo. So your producers are autotrophs. This is your primary consumer. Your herbivores are your primary consumer. Then you have your secondary consumer. This would eat your herbivores. And then you have your tertiary consumer, no, that would be eating your secondary consumer. Then of course you have your quaternary consumer. Usually these are your predators. Pero dito nakapagtataka, no? Kinain nung anong isang to? Tiger ba to? Kinain niya yung, pwede. Kung ito ay tigre or leon, no? Pwede niyang kainin yung snake. All right, now number 45, when a bee gathers nectar from a certain type of flower to make honey, and in the process pollinates the flower, what kind of relationship exists between the bee and the flower? Is it letter A, parasitic, letter B, mutualistic, letter C, commensalistic, or letter D, serendipitous? Ano kaya yung tamang choice for 45? Number 45. Mag-chat lamang ako dito sa may mga nag-chat. Baka nakalimutan na naman nilang may live. Okay, number 45, letter B. Okay, letter B, karamihang choice nyo. Again, the question is, when a bee gathers nectar from a certain type of flower to make honey, and in the process pollinates the flower, the correct choice would be letter B, mutualistic. Okay, so both of them benefit. So unang-una, yung honey mo or your bee would be able to make honey. It can gather the nectar from the flower. On the other hand, the flower is also getting benefits because the flower is pollinated. Okay, so letter B, mutualistic po. Hindi po parasitic, hindi commensalistic, and hindi din siya nangyari dahil nagkataon lang, no? Serendipitous mo, ito ay nagkataon lang. Ang sakit naman niya, naggamitan sila, sabi ni Facebook user. Okay, so these right here are the different symbiotic relationship that you have. When you say symbiosis, this means a close, long-term interaction between two different species. Okay, there are several types of symbiotic relationships. Unang-una is mutualism, an association between two different species where both species benefit. Okay, so yun yung example natin kanina, the bee and the flower. Parasitism, an association between two different species where the symbiont benefits and the host is harmed. Okay, so yung isa would get benefits, you'd call this your parasite, while the host is harmed. Okay, so ito naman, isang linta yung isa, no? Parang linta sa inyong relationship. Yung isa linta, yung isa naman ay naha-harm. Okay? So, there is a parasite and there is a host. One benefits, the other one is harmed. Now, the last one, the second to the last, no? Commensalism, an association between two different species where one species enjoys a benefit and the other is not significantly affected. Okay? So, in this case here, yung isang species would get benefits, the other is dead ma. Walang pake, no? Hindi siya nakakakuha ng benefit, hindi din naman siya affected. Okay? So, it's wala pake. And I have included amensalism here, no? Amensalism, an association between two organisms of different species where one species is inhibited or killed and the other is unaffected. Usually, this happens when there's competition. Kung merong isang organism that is bigger than the other one, and sometimes it might inhibit, or it might inhibit. That means it would stop the growth of that or the smaller organism, or it might even kill the organism in the process. Okay, so this is amensalism. Ayan, parasitism daw, yung mga clingy na relationship. Clingy sa relationship. Friends with benefits. Ano to? Mutualism. Friends with benefits. Okay? Yan, commensalism, manhid yung isa kahit nasasaktan na. Okay, now here. Okay, ito no, low road transfer na lamang to. What is commensalism? Ang crush mo ganon, commensalism, hindi siya apektado, no? Letter A, an association where both species benefit. Letter B, an association where the larger species benefits, the smaller species is harmed. Letter C, an association where one species is killed or inhibited and the other organism is not significantly affected. Or letter D, an association where one species benefits and the other species is not significantly affected. Okay, which one do you think is the correct choice for 46? 46, ano po ang inyong choice? For number 46, we're almost done. Okay, number 46. Tingnan ko lang, may nakita akong question kanina. Ayun, si Ma'am Gigi Kalugas yata may question. Ano naman yung synergism? Kaya ito yung question ni Ma'am Gigi Kalugas. Ano naman yung synergism, ma'am? Yung synergism mo, para silang nag-collab. Parang collab. For example, may two YouTubers ka, no? YouTuber A and YouTuber B, no? When you say synergism, they work together and they produce a greater result than if they are working separately, kahit i-combine mo pa. For example, si YouTuber A at si YouTuber B, no? Pag si YouTuber A and YouTuber B, for example, nag-collab, nakakuha sila, for example, ng kita na 1 million, okay? 1 million pesos. Now, you'd call that synergism if what they have produced together is greater than what they can produce separately. So, kung separate, kung si YouTuber A lamang yung gumagawa ng videos, for example, nakakakuha lamang siya ng 100,000, si YouTuber B nakakakuha ng 300,000. Kahit kinumbine mo pa yon, 400,000 lamang, no? Mas malaki yung na-create nila when they work together. That's synergism. Okay, so synergism, team up. Okay, team up. Para siyang collab. Okay, so commensalism, we are looking for letter D. Association where one species benefits, the other is not significantly affected. Yung sinabi kanina ni Ma'am Clarimar na yung crush mo, parang commensalism, di ba? Ikaw, pwede kang makakuha ng benefit or pwedeng deadma, no? At siya naman, pwedeng deadma. Okay, so yung makukuha mong benefit would be, yung inspired ka, inspiration, pero siya, hindi niya alam, no? Hindi siya hurt, or hindi siya harmed at wala din siyang benefit. Okay, so letter D, association where one species benefits, the other species is not significantly affected. Ang B and D mo dito ay, ang letter B mo, an association where the larger species benefits, the smaller is harmed, no? pwede din siyang maging amensalism. Parang katulad siya ng letter C, association where one species is killed or inhibited, the other organism is not significantly affected. No? This one would be amensalism. Dito sa letter B mo, pwede siyang maging parasitism, kaya lang larger and smaller species lang siya ditong ginamit. Pwede mong iswap. No, sa iyong parasitism, association where the larger species would be harmed. Usually your host is larger than your parasite and the smaller species benefits. Okay, so usually kasi yung ating mga parasite ay maliliit. Letter A, association where both species benefit. This is mutualism. Mutualism siya. All right, next one, manhid siyaism. Meron bang ganun? Number 47, what usually happens in a natural population as it approaches its carrying capacity? Letter A, the population drops dramatically. Letter B, the growth rate of the population slows down. Letter C, nothing. The population will keep growing at the same rate. Or letter D, the population will migrate to an area with more resources. Okay, which one is the choice for 47? Okay, number 47. Going back to number 47, I see a lot of B's and D's. B and D. Okay, what usually happens in a natural population as it approaches its carrying capacity? The correct choice is in letter B. The growth rate of the population slows down. Okay, so the growth rate slows down and eventually it stops. No? So this right here is your carrying capacity. Punta natin. Lumalabas po ito sa LET. Kailangan makabisado nyo kung ano yung carrying capacity. Kahit sa Gen Ed po, lumalabas ito. No? So when you say carrying capacity, this is the maximum stable population size that can be sustained over a long period of time. Kung ang ibig sabihin ng carrying capacity, ito lamang yung number of individuals na kakayang or na po pwedeng i-sustain ng inyong resources, na pwedeng i-manage ng resources, no? Pag sumobra dito, hindi na kaya ng inyong environment, hindi na kaya ng inyong resources. Okay? So, carrying capacity, again, maximum stable population size that can be sustained over a long period of time. So, what happens is that as the population size increases and eventually ma-reach niya yung kanyang carrying capacity, it would slow down. Okay? So, the growth would slow down. Okay, so the growth would slow down and eventually it would stop. Ano yan? Parang hindi po, pwede po kayo mag-pump, breast milk can be stored sa ref. But may breast milk tayong pinag-uusapan. Okay, so again, that's carrying capacity. Eventually, the growth would stop. Okay, the growth would slow down, population growth slows down, and eventually it would stop. Okay, so yan lang yung kaya niya, no? Parang katulad sa paubaya ni Julia tsaka ni sino to, ni Joshua, sabi naubos lang ako, no, na napagod na siya. Hanggang diyan lang yung kaya niya. Kaya kahit kayo, dapat sa love nyo, meron din carrying capacity, no? Hanggang dito lang dapat, may limit. Kung lahat na naibigay mo na, wala pa ring effect, no? So, dapat mag-stop na. Mag-stop na. Eventually, it would slow down. It would slow down and it would stop. Okay. All right, we move on to number 48. Which of the following biomes covers 3/4 of the Earth's surface? Letter A, marine. Letter B, freshwater. Letter C, grasslands. Or letter D, desert. Okay. Ano yung pinag-uusapan yung breast milk, ma'am? Hindi ko nakita yung ano. Okay. Merong may baby. Ask ko lang po sana paano po kaya sa day ng let? Kasi nagpapa-breastfeed po ako ng baby ko. Allowed po kaya sila pumunta if nagugutom? Naku, baka hindi po allowed. So, kung po pwede po, tama po yan. Siguro po ay mag-pump kayo, ma'am, at mag-store kayo ng breast milk. Tama yung sinabi ni Ma'am Charity Light. Sabi ni Ma'am Nini. Sabi ni Ma'am Nini, Ma'am Jonavi Alosa Lindo, hindi po i-accept ng PRC yung reason nyo na magmaoy si baby, ma'am. Magmaoy, magwala si baby, no? Magtantrum si baby doon. So mag-pump po kayo, ma'am. Ayun, sabi ni Ma'am Charity, sanayin nyo na po habang may time pa. Tama, no? Mag-pump po kayo from time to time para po hindi siya magulat, hindi siya ma-shock, no? But nasa bote yung kanyang milk. Sino to Facebook user? Loko to ha. Breast milk is the best for baby up to 2 years. And the years onward, si daddy naman. Ay, nako. Focus ka muna, ma'am. Sabi, pump muna po, ma'am. Okay, so number 48 na po tayo. Which of the following biomes covers 3/4 of the Earth's surface? Ano po yung sagot nyo dito? Marine, freshwater, grasslands, or desert? Sayang daw, sabi ni Ma'am Rin Kashifu. Sayang, may pump sana ako, kaso malayo po ako. Okay, number 48, what's your choice? Letter A. We're almost done, no? We're down to the last three. Last three items na lang. Natapos din yung science. Okay, which of the following biomes covers 3/4 of the Earth's surface? The correct choice here would be letter A. Tama yung letter A. We all know that 75% of the Earth is water. Okay, that's seawater, your ocean, your sea. And so, letter A, marine here would be the correct choice. Tama yung marine. Hindi po freshwater. Kukonti lamang yung freshwater resource natin, no? Grasslands, hindi din desert. Letter A, marine is the correct choice. Number 49. Legumes like blank are important because blank. Letter A, alfalfa. Cows are an important part of the nitrogen cycle. Letter B, corn. They provide food for many organisms. Or letter C, potatoes. They turn nitrates into gas for the atmosphere. Letter D, soybeans. They take nitrogen gas and turn it into nutrients. What's the choice for number 49? Number 49. Number 49, second to the last po. What's your choice? Okay, number 49, kahit hindi nyo alam kung ano yung reason, no? Kahit hindi nyo natingnan itong part after your semicolon, kahit hindi nyo tingnan itong part na after your semicolon, yung pinaka-hint natin dito would be the term legumes. Of course, when you say legumes, these are plants of the pea family. Para siyang peas, no? Parang green peas. And of course here, an example for this would be your soybean. Your soybeans, yung mga mani nyo ay legumes. And so letter D is the choice. Soybeans, they take nitrogen gas and turn into nutrients. Turn it into nutrients. Okay? So, letter D, soybeans po, ang example ng ating legume dito. Hindi po alfalfa. Alfalfa ay para siyang damo. Letter B, corn, hindi din siya legume. Potatoes are also not legumes. Okay? So, letter D is the correct choice. Last one, which of the following orbital descriptions is correct? The Earth and Moon both orbit the Sun, not each other directly. They just stay nearby one another. The Moon orbits Earth, and the Earth orbits the Sun. Letter C, the Earth orbits the Moon, and the Moon orbits the Sun. Letter D, the Sun and Moon orbit the Earth. Which one is the correct choice? Last item for science. Okay. Last item, letter B. Karamihang choice nyo. Letter B. Of course, when you say orbits, when you see the term orbit here, that means it goes around another object, no? It goes around another heavenly body, another body. And so the correct choice here would be letter B. Tama yung letter B. The moon orbits the earth and the earth orbits the sun. Let's take a look at your slide. Okay, so this right here is your slide. This is your moon. Ito yung moon mo, ito yung earth, ito yung sun. Okay, nilagay lamang dalawang moons dito para makita nyo kung anong difference between solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. So again, we have to remember, if you have the earth has one natural satellite, no? Lumalabas ito sa left. What is the Earth's only natural satellite? And your answer would be the moon. When you say satellite, it is an object that goes around a planet. Okay? So, meron tayong mga artificial satellites. The first artificial satellite ng Pilipinas ay called Diwata. Lumabas ito sa 2019 na left. Okay? Diwata, the first satellite from the Philippines. Okay, so again, if you have the Earth, the only natural satellite of the Earth, one of the items that would sometimes come out in the left, the natural satellite of the Earth is the moon. So yung moon ay iikot sa Earth mo, no? So that's the moon orbits the Earth. The Earth, on the other hand, we know that it is part of the solar system. The sun is at the center, and the rest of the planets would go around the sun. Okay, so the moon orbits the earth while the earth orbits the sun. Now, because of this, because of those orbital properties, we would sometimes have eclipses. Okay, so again, remember, kung ang eclipse mo, type of eclipse mo ay solar eclipse, remember the acronym SME. Okay, SME, Sun, Moon, Earth. Okay, again, solar eclipse is SME, Sun, Moon, Earth. If your type of eclipse is lunar eclipse, that would be SEM. SEM naman yung lunar eclipse. Sun, Earth, and Moon. Dito naman sa likod ng Earth ang inyong Moon. Okay, so again, solar eclipse ay SME. Your acronym would be SME. And your lunar eclipse, the acronym would be SEM.